Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping on and tuning into the Modern Merchant podcast. My name is Austin, and I'm your host. I am the go-to-market director here at Flxpoint. In today's episode, we have a very special guest. This is Drew. He is the CEO and co-founder of PCR. Drew, thanks for jumping on today.
Yeah, absolutely, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We've had a couple conversations. You were, I think we ran into you a couple times. You're based here in Jacksonville, correct?
Yeah.
Yep, beach. Perfect.
Another beach neighbor. So
right down the street, but couldn't get you in, right? It's kind of difficult getting people in, but it's great to have you. And it's always great to talk to people in the space, especially kind of in the same realm of being in Jacksonville, because Jacksonville is kind of like that unique situation of there's a lot of tech companies, but we're not quite like the Austin of Texas, or the Valley. But it's great to see other agencies in the e-commerce realm. And we've talked and connected a little bit. So super stoked that you're on. Why don't you give the listeners just a quick background of what you're currently doing with PCR, and then a background of the company?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I founded PCR 14 years ago when I was 23 and really was just getting into digital marketing. So read SEO for Dummies, taught myself web design, and was kind of off to the races. And then slowly, as a agency, we really grew from a locally, I'd say working with a lot of small businesses in the market to more regional to eventually, national. And I think over time, we've been able to work with some really fun brands, Lyft and Major League Baseball, and help the Chargers move from San Diego to LA. And really for us, it was, do we want to be a jack of all trades or a little bit more specialization? And so we went the specialist route. And now we've just found a great niche in e-commerce, working really around conversion rate optimization. So helping improve, the brand's website to a lot of retention strategy and communication with SMS and email. With COVID, obviously that's accelerated a lot of retailers adopting more and more of an online presence. And so it was, really the right time, right moment for us. And now we've primarily focused just on, really helping high growth brands in the e-commerce space, kind of accelerate that growth through conversion and retention.
Gotcha. So take us back to 23-year-old Drew, right? And how did PCR just get started? Was this something like you've always thought about, maybe coming out of college? Like take us back to that time.
Yeah, no, I knew I wanted to run my own business. I didn't know exactly what it was. My dad was a serial entrepreneur. We would be talking hiring strategies and sales tactics over the dinner table in high school. And then, he kind of nudged me a little bit and was like, I think this digital web thing is going to, continue to be an important part. Why don't you figure out a way to get involved? And so I legitimately went to a bookstore and got SEO for Dummies version 2, and then started playing around with coding websites and things like that, and started cold calling and prospecting in the local market, and working out of my living room. At the time, I think being young and entrepreneurial was looked down on and kind of I'd say like a good old boy market in Jacksonville. And so I had to pretend to be an account executive, not the CEO, and signing up clients, off my living room couch. And would just start, kind of building up from there. And still to this day, I have clients that I signed up 14 years ago, which is kind of insane. But yeah, I was just figuring it out as I went. I didn't know I remember a client asking me like, oh, this will be, reflected on our P&L. And I go back home, Google what a P&L is. I was just really trying to learn a lot as I was, it was definitely building the plane as we were taking off for sure.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And it's so cool seeing that, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs, I feel like, in Jacksonville. And that's kind of one thing that we stand for with Flxpoint and Inventory Source, our sister company, in the sense of having that entrepreneurial spirit. That's kind of like what drives a lot of us to come into work, because we just take advantage and taking hold of our own job in itself, even though we're not like the CEO per se. Yep. But that's cool. That's funny. SEO for Dummies. You still have that book?
I don't. I need to track it down or be able to find it. I mean, back in the day,
frame it up on the wall. That'd be perfect.
I mean, back in the day, I could just change out a title tag, and then like a week later, they'd be ranking for their main keywords. So I was like, oh, this is pretty easy. And then things obviously change quite a lot over time. So you have to kind of, with digital, you have to stay on your toes and really be innovating. Otherwise, you're going to be falling behind, pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree. So what is for PCR? Because, and this is, I mean, I feel like we could talk about this for a while too, is the concept of a e-commerce digital agency, or just really a digital agency in general. You've got anywhere from, we've got some partners that are in agents that run an agency, and they do a lot of web development, like just pure team of devs that do any type of development from a store to an app and things like that. But then you've got other e-commerce agencies that help with SEO and rate optimization and like conversions. I like how it seems like you guys do a lot in the SMS world, which is still a huge part of marketing. What is your sweet spot in the realm of all of these like digital agencies?
Yeah. So for us, it is and my head of UX was at Victoria's Secret for 10 years. And she always has this analogy that I really like of, our job really starts similar to a retail experience. When you come into the store and how you greet that customer is exactly what we do. It's just from a digital storefront. And so how you're communicating with them, how you're relating to them from a customer service standpoint, what you're showing in the aisle as they're looking through and looking at different products or apparel or whatever that may be, and enhancing that user experience is our niche and what we've, I think, developed incredibly well. So we don't touch social media. We're not touching your paid ads. We're not doing design and development. We're really looking at the entire user experience as it relates to your digital storefront and figuring out ways that we can, optimize that as much as possible so that we take your traffic, your database, your customers, and drive as much engagement and value as possible. So, the numbers we look at are your lifetime value, your repeat purchase rate, what is the conversion rate from traffic to purchase, all the low-hanging fruit kind of metrics that are really going to drive higher and higher profitability for the e-commerce businesses that we're working with.
That makes sense. And that's a great way of explaining it too, because you go to websites, any agency, I go to a website and I'm just like, it's the same stuff that this person did, but like, I know you guys are a little bit different. So that makes a lot of sense. Do you guys fit in a specific like vertical or, different types of companies you work with? I think you guys work specifically more so with branded people that sell their own branded products. And then I think you guys help out some others that aren't specifically in e-commerce, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of, just due to the nature of the business being around for as long as we have, there is another component on the B2B side. So we're a HubSpot Diamond partner and work really closely with CRM and platform migration. So, we'll take a client that has 250 sales reps and they're on Dynamics and they want to get over to HubSpot and get that all optimized and figured out. That's another, kind of sector industry that we serve. And then on the e-commerce side, there's some core verticals that we've had a lot of success with, food and beverage being one. So we're working with coffee brands, energy drinks, wineries. We have a ton of clients, kind of in that space. Fashion apparel, really due to Erin, who was at Victoria's Secret, and her background in apparel and fashion has been really relevant for a lot of our clients there. And then beauty cosmetics is another one that we do a lot with. And then the last one's health wellness. So telemedicine, telehealth, things like that we've carved out a nice niche. There's some others that are in like entertainment, but those are like the four, I'd say, core verticals that we've primarily helped with and being able to leverage a lot of our experience to help them grow.
Yeah. Do you guys usually like are open to any vertical though?
Yeah, definitely. I just think the clients have a little bit of peace of mind that we've done it in their industry. We understand selling beverage online is drastically different than selling skincare. And so what is the nuance between user behavior? If you think about it, most beverage happens in a retail. You see something on the aisle and you pick it up. If you wanted to purchase something for the first time online, you're talking, $30, and then you pay shipping and you haven't even tried the product. So that where, cosmetics, you can try it a little bit, try it once, maybe it's $10, $15, a little bit easier to have that experience. And then you think about subscription and ongoing, kind of relationship. And so we've definitely done all kinds of different verticals and industries. But having those, kind of core competencies in those verticals seems to really be relevant for a lot of the clients that we're working with.
And it's crazy too, because you see this, like, we help out e-commerce, right? Like any type of agency, software, like whatever it is, it's like we help e-commerce merchants. But then once you actually start getting into what are you selling online, it's completely different use cases and workflows all across the board. I mean, we work with a lot of firearm dealers. A lot of people are selling firearm and tactical gear, and shipping and costs and like just everything you can think of is so much more different to the eco-friendly perishable good guys, that are selling Tom soap and like all of these like other stuff, right? So it's like going from one to the other. And then we also service like adult products, and it's just kind of like all over the place of different nuanced stuff. What's really interesting is we're getting into automotive and bicycle, different verticals, and those are super interesting because you don't realize the amount of fitments. So something that like that tiny little thing that you need for your, I don't know, carburetor on your truck, but you have to know that it's a 2016 Toyota Tundra, like SR5, like, and it's like knowing that specific and making that. I bet that would be fun for you guys, is that user experience of going on someone's website to make it resemble like a, like a cars.com or like some of these other ones where you have to get all the way down to the specific type of nuanced thing. AutoZone, I guess, would be like a good example. And it's, people don't realize that once you get into e-commerce, it's like, depending on what they sell, it could be a completely different user experience across the board.
Well, and the challenge really is, everybody has the Amazon experience, right? So it's one-click checkout, it's at your door in 2 days. And so that's the standard that the customer is really setting. And for a lot of these brands, luckily, you have the Shopifys of the world that have invested a lot in the technology, and then all the supporting apps and ecosystem around that, so that you're over communicating with the customer and what's going on. I mean, in COVID, there's so many different delays and not getting the product on time. And so what we really work with our clients, because we focus a lot of time and energy on the communication side, is how do you get ahead of that and really understand that that's that level of standard that the customer is setting, and how do you meet that as a small business or kind of a merchant just getting going. And we recommend a lot of tools to be able to help around shipping, fulfillment, customer service, support tickets, things of that nature, so that even if you can't get to the Amazon same day delivery, you can communicate with them so that they know what type of experience. So I think we've seen brands in the past where they hide behind, really lengthy hidden kind of terms and conditions, and they just, they don't communicate, and it's impossible to get in touch with customer support. Might help you get one transaction, but it's sure not going to help you with the lifetime value and getting them to, repeatedly, kind of purchase a product from you as well. So, I think we really look at that holistic user experience, and the level of standard that we have to go against, unfortunately, is the Amazons that have invested, billions probably at this point in their technology and the support and the, the personalization and all this other stuff. Every brand wants it, every user wants it, but it's difficult to replicate it. So we try and, kind of make recommendations where we can to get ahead of that as much as possible.
And I feel like people getting started too, they don't realize that it's not just about getting that first customer, it's about getting that first customer back. And like that repeat customer is what makes a business a business. Or you could just be selling Oberlo products off of Shopify, drop shipping from China, and just try to make a quick buck. And no bashing on you, like have at it, but it's not quite a sustainable business in legitimate e-commerce business. So let's staying on that breadth of talking about different customers, right? Different verticals that people sell, different stuff. You mentioned at the beginning of this that you had some really good brands. I mean, Chargers, like working for the Chargers, like how is that? Tell me about it, like a unique story that you guys, help out with. That sounds like a unique story compared to, like, I think I saw Fatheads. You guys help out with Fatheads and a couple other ones.
Yeah. No, we so the Chargers, I was in New York at the time, and I got connected, and they were just moving to Los Angeles from San Diego. And it started off as a small like UX project to kind of clean up a little bit of the site. And then they really didn't have a lot of the sophistication in-house because they were the only game in town. It was like them and the Padres in San Diego. And then you moved to LA, the second largest market in the country, and you're competing against 11 other professional teams. I mean, it was a tall order with no fan base. Like, you've been around for the longest time, but for us, it was such a unique experience because you really were working with, multi-billion-dollar startup of just like having to start from scratch on building an audience, building brand, building a customer base. And so that one little project turned into us having 8 full-time people dedicated to the account, me moving to LA and working out of their Costa Mesa office. And I mean, yeah, you want to talk about experience. I mean, that was my whole life for at least 18 months, me personally, of running everything from, their customer retention strategy, their data warehouse, their email marketing and communication. And, I think as challenging as it was really, really successful. We grew their database size to, 350,000, fans. We millions and millions of dollars in ticket revenue directly attributed to what we were doing from an email standpoint. And yeah, it was just fun. You're like, and on, what, as a kid being a sports fan and, wanting everyone, I think, dreams of working in sports, but to be able to do that and then see the product on the field and be able to witness that, it was a pretty unique and memorable experience. Something I definitely won't, ever forget, for sure.
That's really cool. Cause I started here as a sales rep, and then as our first sales rep, and then moved into a couple of different roles. And now I'm, working on the marketing team, with our go-to-market, and I'm instantly shifting into this marketing mindset. When I first heard about the Chargers moving to LA and the Rams, and I was just like, number one, I've never, you barely see NFL teams move just in general. It just all kind of happened recently, right? With the Raiders going to Vegas and a couple other ones. But not only are you going to that saturated market of Los Angeles, which it's even hard, unless you're the Lakers, it's still hard to get people to games, or maybe even the Dodgers, but the Angels, it's hard to get people to the Angels games. I've heard, LAFC is doing really well, but the Galaxy, they're not getting a whole bunch either. But
then they're all competing, and all the other things going on in LA with the beaches and the hikes and everything. I mean, it was, and they had no fan base. It was crazy, challenging. And I think even the way that they left San Diego, because they had bitter fans that were, kind of upset about it. So we couldn't even really draw that much from that market to be able to do it. So it was an incredibly, challenging. I don't know if I'll ever face something as fun and exhilarating and also stressful as, figuring out that digital strategy and working across, their team and all their, different partners and agencies and stuff like that. We were really running point on a lot of all things, kind of digital too. So
that's cool. No, that's cool. Did you guys ever have to do anything with Fanatics as well? Because I know that's kind of, when I think of e-commerce and I think of the Chargers, is everything goes through Fanatics now. And we've got headquarters of Fanatics here in Jacksonville.
Yep.
Do you guys ever have to deal with that?
Yeah, Fathead, actually, we did collaboration with Fanatics, so it always kind of came back. And then with the Chargers too, when people would purchase Chargers Fanatics gear, we would want to obviously capture that email and be able to remarket to them. And the NFL does a really good job of providing a lot of collateral and assets too for their teams. Someone signs up on NFL.com, they do, blast if they're in that, LA DMA. And so we were able to really leverage a lot of these existing Ticketmaster and, kind of relationships like that would help us, kind of repurpose so that we didn't have to necessarily reinvent, the wheel. And I think, more than anything, I've done this now for 14 years. It's been really fun where in the very beginning, we just took all business and didn't matter if, they were, a total, trying to think of a politically correct way, just very mean to us. And we just kind of took the money. But now it's we've really been fortunate where I love our clients, not only just for, the relationships, but the verticals, who doesn't love to drink wine, who doesn't love to we have, coffee, we have sports drinks, a lot of things that I use in my everyday life that we're able to, kind of help and leverage. And so that alignment, I think feels really good across the team, kind of culturally too, that we're doing some good and we're respected for the work, and we're actually adding value to their, bottom line as well.
That's awesome. No, that's cool to hear. That makes me jealous. I went to college to start sport management, So all my buddy takes sports managements and then just couldn't get a job to save their lives in sports.
Well, so my first job was actually an internship with the Jaguars, the local NFL team.
Yeah.
And luckily I was an intern, but I was working 90-hour weeks. So I was getting like time and a half, and I was making more than my like boss's boss. And I was like, okay, if I want to do this, I'm going to have to, really cut my teeth for like a decade without really making any money, because I think 1,000 people applied for that one internship, kind of within the, the company. And so luckily it kind of came full circle. They ended up Jaguars becoming a client for a little while, and then, the Chargers. Oh, wow. And then we've done stuff with the NBA and Major League Baseball. So able to scratch some itches, in that regard, on the sports as, kind of a kid playing. I played basketball all my life. So it was, pretty fun to be able to do some stuff like that.
That's cool. We've got a couple of ex-employees from the Jaguars working for us. And I've known so many people working with the Jaguars. You brought up like the whole moving, right? San Diego, bitter fans. And we've all seen it with the Jaguars going to London. Like, okay, let's slow down there. Look at all the money. And actually, this is a good little segue, because when you helped out with the Chargers, that was about a year ago?
No, that was, 4 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, I guess, because they had the decision earlier. Yeah. I mean, what they're going through now. I was curious to know like how you guys have weathered the COVID storm, and how that's been, because it's for us, just to kind of set the scene, it was a double-edged sword for us, in the sense of we integrate with a lot of distributors, and those are our partners. Yeah. And they had to close warehouses. They couldn't go into the warehouse and fulfill products. Like they couldn't do any of that. So we had to shut down some of their feeds for some of our customers, which means some of our customers that are reselling those products had to cancel. But at the same time, we just get this influx of people trying to get online, and it was great. So it was like that double-edged sword of like, we're hurt here, but we're just banking off of, this wave of, unfortunately, a global pandemic. Yeah. How's things been for you guys? Like what's been going on from an agency perspective?
Yeah. I mean, I think fortunately, and all of this horrendous, kind of pandemic and things that are going on, people were shopping increasingly less in person and retail. And so, we've seen all the stats of the growth in e-commerce and just total rev and sales. We were, I think it was the right place, right time. And so that, we've grown about 70% last year to this year, really due to more dollars being spent from an e-commerce standpoint. And so that's more brands being started in the Shopify ecosystem. I think Toby, the founder and CEO of Shopify, brought a stat of like more people are applying for, businesses and licenses like LLCs and things like that by like 200+% than they ever have, because you could start a company and set up a Shopify store in, a few weeks really, or a few days if you're smart and savvy, and then start selling online. And so all of that has really helped, along with like, we help some large retailers figure out like, how do we even think about D2C? We're all in wholesale and everything else. So we work with a lot of, kind of clients there. So that's been really good. And then lately it's been coupled with the Apple and iOS updates and how that affects Facebook and advertising. I think for whatever reason, conversion rate is one of the metrics that's looked at kind of like last. I think there's so much data and Google Analytics and their head kind of spins. It's much easier to like look at Facebook creative and manipulate that to be able to change it. And so we've had a ton of new business, kind of coming in, there as well. And so, we've been really fortunate. I think the only thing we're honestly struggling with right now is finding talent and people. Where, the majority of our team is based in Jacksonville. During the pandemic, we went fully remote and sublet our office in downtown. So it does broaden the talent pool that we can hire from. But right now, demand is just far outstripping supply. There's just not a lot of people. So we're having to, kind of cold outreach and things like that we've never had to do, kind of previously. Good problem to have, but, a problem nevertheless.
I mean, hiring is a hard problem half the time too, especially if it's bigger Well, I guess in this use case, it's almost like when you're trying to hire somebody that's, just maybe like a support rep, right? Or someone, a sales rep, just a little bit more of need a grinder. That's a little bit harder because people are making more money staying unemployed. And, but then like at the same time, it's like for us, we're growing exponentially. So we're looking at, certain recs that we're looking out, and we are doing a lot of outbound stuff now too, which we've never had to do, which is crazy. Usually you would say like, hey, we work on the beach. Like, don't you want to work at the beach? Isn't that nice? Sometimes we'll get them, sometimes we won't. But no, that's good to know. And then really one of the last questions, and this kind of just goes off of what we talked about already with COVID and this trend of going online, right? Everybody seems to be wanting to go online, whether it's e-commerce, just having a presence online. I mean, I know if I'm going anywhere new, restaurant, store, Top Golf, like whatever, right? It's like I almost always instantly go to their website to just see what they're about or like what's going there. And for you guys, that's 100% happening right now, right? Are you guys getting businesses too that have never had an online presence and you're starting from scratch?
Yeah. We just signed a retailer that was, they sell baby clothes. They do, 10 figures a year retail, and they haven't ever done online at all. Haven't touched it, haven't done anything with it. They do have like some Amazon business and other things like that, and so we are seeing in some of the beverage clients, there might be in like 10,000 retail locations and Whole Foods and distributed, kind of all over, but they're doing like six figures and total sales online. So we are seeing a lot of brands that are like, okay, we know we need to figure out D2C. We're still not sure exactly how do we dip a toe in the water, knowing that this is just going to become more and more prominent. So we kind of act as a guide, or, help them from a strategy of like, here's how you set up Shopify. Here's how you set up like a Klaviyo or your email tool. Here's the tech stack. And then, even though we don't touch performance or social, we have partners that we can recommend that can help, kind of guide them through to drive audience and take advantage, because they're like, yeah, we've been in business for 10 years and we have like 300,000 emails of customers. And we're like, yeah, that's great. Like we can leverage that for, online pretty cost effectively. And so that's been a growing market, kind of for us. We have the high growth. Okay, we figured out product market fit. Now we need to figure out our conversion and our retention. That's a big sector. And then these other ones of like, okay, we're a huge retailer, wholesaler. How do we even start to think about, selling online, and what would that, entail and look like too?
So what's good advice that you would give someone that needs to start an online presence, at least to start? It sounds like, and at least for me, my thought is just ask people. Like, I feel like not a lot of people do that. They get worried about asking for advice. We get people all the time that are like, hey, we're looking to do X, Y, Z. Can you help us out? And half of us are like, I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'll go check it out and try to help you out. And it's like, I feel like a lot of us are getting into that very consultant type of, realm. And I feel like that's number one. Would you say that's like a good approach to like next steps for anybody that wants an online presence?
I do. I mean, and there's just so much content available now. It's pretty insane. And there's a lot of like relevant newsletters that I, kind of follow. There's a D2C, it's called just D2C newsletter. There's Lean Lux, there's 2 p.m., Nick Sharma, plug myself. I have a weekly newsletter that I do just around like e-commerce insights and tools that we're using that we've had success, or brands that we think are doing, well in the space, that is just on our site, consultpcr.com, and you can sign up. And so there is a lot. And then I do think I've been really impressed with just how transparent and open the community has been of helping each other, whether they're even like direct competitors or, giving some time available just to, ask and consult a little bit. To your point, it really is open. And I think, the more business being done online is just going to be a net positive for people that are in the space. And so you do get a little bit of that camaraderie and sharing of information that we find to be, really helpful. I personally love like still taking calls and helping, even if they might not be a client today. There's just something that, down the line that I do think we, we'll cross paths and be able to, kind of help each other out.
Yeah. it's an interesting point, because when it comes to business and competition, everybody was like, we're enemies with this person, right? Or we're enemies with this person. And being in software for as long as I've been, there's really not that, it's not that vibe, it's not that like because for us, for instance, with Flxpoint, we really don't have a direct competitor, but there are a few that are like definitely like overlap.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we still open up conversations of possibly integrating to them as a partner. There's people that we integrate with Channel Advisor, but people have left Channel Advisor for us at the same time. It's this weird I call it frenemies. But it's kind of like nice from it's a good breath of fresh air with software, where we're not the type of companies to say, don't use them, use us, or we're competitors with them, we're never going to talk to you, kind of thing. And now it's just like, we just help each other out, right? Like we integrate with competitors all the time, and it's because it helps that specific customer out that honestly, both of us just want to keep happy.
Yeah. And I mean, we are tangential to software, but to me, open API, kind of integration is just the way to do it. Like, we've worked in a lot of like legacy systems that just don't play nice with anything. And the whole point is so that, for you to move off of them would be so, time and energy and capital intensive that they don't want to do it. I don't abide by that as like, kind of a business philosophy. And so, we're really, really open, and I've been so happy with like how much people are sharing. We're trying to do more of that, of like, hey, here's experiments that we've run, here's tests that we've had a lot of success with that you can run on your own site, here's little things that you can do to fix that can drive kind of conversion. And I think doing more of that is just really like a net positive all around. So I think there's no shortage of information, whether in the form of podcasts like this, or the form of articles or blogs, or email newsletters and things of that nature, that you can get educated on it pretty quickly. And then I think there's a lot of people willing to devote some time and energy to also kind of help navigate some of the more specific questions that you might be facing with your business as well.
Yeah, I like that. I'd echo that net positive. Just take an extra step to help someone out, just consult, help them out with something specific. Even though we don't get paid to do that, it's always going to come back in a good way. So that's great. So we're wrapping up on time here. Before we jump off, I always like to ask this, or ask our guests to do this. Give us a quick little plug of PCR. Why would someone want to use you guys?
Yeah, I think, look, 14 years of experience in digital is like a lifetime in some other industries. I remember convincing people to build a website and not advertise on the yellow pages. And so that's how long we've been at it. And so a lot of experience. And then I think too, it's that specialization. I think, a lot of the agencies these days can be a little bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. We know conversion, we know retention in a very specific space. And so we have a playbook that we've applied across, at this point, 100 plus brands over the decade plus we've been in business. And so we're not guessing, we're not postulating on like, if this is going to work, we can look at it. And I love what I do because it's all numbers driven. We can point at this and say, okay, improve your conversion rate by 0.5%. You spend no more money on Facebook. It drives, 7 figures in additional revenue by just doing these, basic things. So, and I think a lot of the brands that we've worked with in the case studies kind of speak for themselves, and, still have that client that, signed 14 years ago, still working with us. So we must be hopefully doing something right at this point.
14 years in the e-commerce and digital side is definitely like the lifetime, right? Yeah. What was back in the day? What was that? Magento maybe was like the only one that you could use. Illusion.
Infusionsoft, Drupal. Yeah, just Voloper, which was like a really close system that I would like make one edit and the whole site would crash, and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? It's just, so, a lot of lessons learned, but we've definitely seen, kind of a lot, but it's fun. No day is the same. It really, and I tell that with employees too. It's like, if you want, clock in, clock out, same thing, not going to happen. Like our business looks drastically different, even a year ago, from what we're, doing today. So it keeps it fun for sure.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that as well. Well, Drew, I appreciate the time, man. Thanks for jumping on. Hopefully we'll let's grab a beer later or something like that. It's great to talk to other people in Jacksonville. So really appreciate you jumping on and giving a lot of content and context, a lot of good information, from an agency perspective, e-commerce, optimizing your online presence and things like that. So thanks for jumping on, Drew.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Austin. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Perfect. All right. Definitely. I was about to say, maybe we'll, I don't know if you're a surfer, we'll paddle out here with Hurricane Larry off the coast. I've already gone out. Well, perfect, Drew. Thanks for jumping on. Everybody that's listening, thanks for tuning in. Obviously, check us out on YouTube. We'll be on Spotify, Stitcher, and iTunes as well, or Apple Podcasts, or whatever you call it. And give us a listen there. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and tune in for the next episode. Drew, appreciate you again.
Thanks, Austin.